One of the things, being in Charlottesville and in the streets last August, it feels like a particular moment because for most of the people I know who are younger than me, experiencing white supremacy in mass, embodied in actual humans with weapons and chants and the whole thing hadn't happened in their lifetime in their organizing experience. And so while I totally agree that it feels like a hard moment to figure out exactly what to do with ourselves as we remember, I think it's also important that to know and acknowledge that part of what we do when we remember is not only remembering the violence, but remembering the ways that our previous work in community and in movement was able to respond to that. Because for me, at least, it legitimized this thing that I felt like I had had with like conversations I had with my family of origin and other folks for a long time, where people for real acted like I was crazy. Like, we are past that. You had your black president, sit down, like everything is fine. That doesn't really exist. People say anything on the internet, those kind of things. And when that mobilization stepped off of the internet and into the streets, in a place that was close to where I live and where I'm from, it was a different orientation. All of a sudden there was a response. It's like, oh shit, even though while we were in Charlottesville, there were still people like walking their dogs and having their tea at Starbucks, as if their like Saturday was like any other. It does feel like it was a touchstone moment where I at least saw so many of my different communities intersecting, organizing communities, political, like home and fam, queer community, church communities coming together. And so I want to make sure that as I'm remembering that time and finding the ways that feel right for my body and my spirit to remember and honor both the death that happened and the countless deaths at the hands of white Christian supremacy that have happened for generations and that continue to happen on a daily basis, that I am not just giving energy to that evil that is present, but rather also recommitting to the embodiment of the body of movement that is what happens when we all come together and when we each have our own different place and role in that. Because there was hard stuff that happened, but there was so much good that also happened in people coming together. And I don't mean that in like a woo-woo unity kind of thing, but for real, like there were medics, trained medics on the ground. For real, there were Antifa with like set courses of action that they understood and knew between them. There were clergy in their collars. And that kind of very real on the ground coordination that was, for me at least, a first run at that scale in a place that I had never been before, like in an organizing space I'd never been to before, that was a call out to community that invited us in. So I'm spending time as I sit in the pain, also recognizing and reaffirming our work, that it is so legitimate, it is so urgent, it is so necessary, the threat and the evil are so real, and that what my work, at least in this moment, is figuring out for myself, what are the things that I have to offer to the movement, to an action, to a theological statement, whatever those different pieces are, but what are the gifts that I bring to the table, and how do I incorporate those in ways that actually like make sure that those kinds of very real evils and threats that are around us all the time are put on notice, that that isn't something that's going to be accepted or welcomed in our streets.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.